Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to do one more video about this rooster I've been tinkering with for a little bit here. I want to just give me my final thoughts on it, good and bad. Let's start with number one, just the overall design. It's going to be fun when you get this thing up and running and it's dialed in the way you want it to be. There's no doubt that it's going to be fun. I have actually flown this frame, this particular one here. It flies fine. If you're familiar with the Chameleon, it flies pretty similar to that, as it should, because the dimensions are the same and the weight's pretty similar. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I really just want to bring up here. The first one is the camera mount. The camera doesn't come with it, but the camera mount does. It's designed for this style of camera. I just want you to know that not every camera is exactly the same width. If you buy a Fox or Predator here, don't just crank down on it in there. You'll need to find a 1/2 millimeter thick washer because this frame is designed for 28.5 millimeter camera. Fox or Predator's 28 millimeter. That leaves 1/2 millimeter. And if you just put it in there and start cranking on it, it'll bend the frame away. Or break the camera, or bad things will happen. So make sure you get a spacer in there for that. And this is the way they designed it, and that's fine. It takes that type of camera. You can buy the ones that fit in there perfectly, or you can buy something like this and modify it. It doesn't come with any pieces to do that. Like if you need that 1/2 inch or 1/2 millimeter washer, the camera isn't supplied with one, and neither is the frame. So you're on your own to figure that out. This type, like this Runcam Swift 2, if you can get it with the mini style frame, that fits in there just perfectly and works. And the second thing about this is, man, this titanium is beautiful on here, and it's very protective of your camera. But the way they've designed it really gives you a limited range of motion. I think I calculated in my other video from 30 to like maybe 60, a little over. Some people are complaining about this or removing this bar. I heard one person just remove the bar. I've seen modifications to this bar that allow the camera to come down a little bit further. You can use a smaller lens on there. That'll give you a little bit more range. I've also heard of guys mounting this on the top hole there so that it only points down, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having the camera mounted lower in the first place. So, I mean, you could do that and you get a little bit further. And some of the freestyle pilots are wanting more flat, or maybe sometimes beginners want a little bit more flat of the perspective. So I've heard both of those in my comments, in the comment sections of my previous videos. So that range, I mean, it has the range here. You could probably go a little lower with a smaller lens on there, but still maybe not enough for you. Where this is just something that seems like, well, better thought out from the Chameleon here is that, I mean, this can go, I can make that flat, or I can make it point down, I can make it point way the heck up. Pretty much whatever I want to do. So it's your call on that. If you like to fly in this range, then this is not going to be a gripe of yours. If you like to fly with one of the cameras that fits in there perfectly, it's not going to be a gripe of yours. If you like to fly flat, you're going to hate that. And all of these things I'm bringing up, I would love to discuss them in the comment section too. So please feel free to respond to any of these things, whether you like what I'm saying or not. The second thing on this was the bolts. A lot of the bolts came. I had a couple of them. I have not asked for the update kit on the bolts, but I know that if you email them, they'll send them to you at no charge. So that's good of them to do that, because it's only kind of sort of their fault that those bolts went out. I mean, they didn't manufacture the bolts, they just supplied them, and whoever manufactured them screwed up on that. So, you know, they'll happily send them out to you. Personally, I had enough supplied in my package that I didn't feel the need to get more. And then the problem on that being is that when you went to cinch down your arms, sometimes these would strip, sometimes you couldn't get a grip on them at all with your tool there. and I'm actually starting to get a little bit of tolerance on those screws myself. So maybe I'll call and order, or maybe I'll email them and order a bolt update kit for this. I'm sure the new ones are being sent out properly, so they may not even have that issue. And that also leads into the arms. Yeah, we got into all kinds of drama over the arms moving. People are still not liking that. You can cinch down on this hard enough to where I just don't think it's going to be an issue moving in flight. It's been said that if you squeeze those together as much as you can, the prop still won't touch, and that's cool. I also had someone mention that if you buy the 6-inch version of this frame, that if you at the end of their tolerance, actually the props will nick each other. Now I haven't confirmed that with because I don't have one of those 6-inch frames yet, but I don't have any reason to believe that the person that made that comment would tell me that just because they were mad at Armattan or something. So anyway, to me the arms moving is just not a big deal. It's just the cost of if you want to have the convenience of replacing arms quickly, which to me is really just not a big deal. I don't break them very often, at least at this point. And I don't mind. I don't if I broke this, I usually have a backup quad, so I would just throw it in the thing, come home, fix it, order the new plate or whatever I had to do, and move on. I don't mind tinkering with, and it would be kind of a hassle because you got to replace all 4 motors, take your electronics off from there, all this stuff. It's definitely not as convenient. If you're an aggressive flyer and you break your arms, then probably it's hard to find a design that really makes it solid. We've been through all this on my previous videos. Like even this thing here, this JEP RC, all these arms meet in the middle, and it still moves just a little bit. So if you're thinking that 4 separate arms isn't going to move at all, that's difficult to achieve. Another thing that I got into on this frame was the Sunken Nuts. I'm seeing other manufacturers that are doing the same thing. I didn't like when it got to the point where they were suggesting to tap it in with a hammer. I don't know, do whatever you need to do, tap it in with a hammer, vise. I used a C-clamp, regular vice grips seem to be a popular solution, although they seem to kind of mar the surface there. I don't know, get them in there, don't worry about it. You might have some delamination, you might not. It's not a big deal. All it's doing is holding the bolts. Put it on there, go fly, have fun. Another thing that these arms give you, as far as it's giving me a little bit of an issue here, is that when you build, you can't, if you like to build like I do with a 4-in-1 ESC, and I don't like to have my power connector sticking out the side like some builders are doing with this frame. It kind of creates a little problem. Maybe you can see it in there, where since this is an elevated thing, and if you want this down low, you might have to use a different mounting technique for your wires, like maybe vertical. This particular PC board, this is a Hobby Wing 4-in-1 ESC. It doesn't really like them to be mounted vertical. It wants to be like that. So there's just not a whole heck of a lot of room between here and there. Whereas in the Chameleon, since it's one bottom plate, you've got all the room in the world because there's just nothing in the way. So this gives you a few more build options. This is something you can work around. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just pointing out that my first go at it here, transferring this electronics from another frame, it's like, well, crap, now I got to deal with that. Same thing with these motor wires. They're a little dangerously close if you mount that down low. And they're gonna rub on that piece. The insulation will go away. Carbon is conductive, and then so mount this a little bit higher really is just the solution. And honestly, that's not a big deal. So you probably have that. You probably have a flight controller mounted on top of it. Your VTX and your RX will be in the back. If you're using XM Plus, it fits really nice between the arms back here under that plate. So I don't see it as a big deal. It's just like one of those things that's just slightly more annoying than it should be. What else did I have on this? We talked about the camera. We talked about the arms. We talked about the Sunken Nuts. We talked about that build. Oh, on the back, still just not a big fan. I've seen. I'm talking about the antenna mounts here. The idea being that these are molded rubber pieces that go in here, and you can make sure if you do use these, you actually shove the tube all the way through. You get definitely. It's not. I don't think it's going to come out, but it's probably going to move around. So if you like to bend your antennas to a certain angle, so you can melt this tube with your heat gun or whatever, and bend it to whatever position you want. And I've seen them bent up and down and sideways, and I've also seen a lot of people using alternative techniques for mounting their antennas. I'm just personally not a big fan of this. I don't think they should be straight out like that. So you're going to have to bend it, but they're not going to stay in position unless you rig it to do so. I'm a fan of this mount that somebody came up with for the Chameleon, that the tubes go in, you cinch that down, it presses them down. They're not going anywhere, and they're held perfectly in position. No fuss. Someone also mentioned that I had this sticking out because I broke one of these tubes one time, and it got cut a little short. And they are right. You should not have your antennas sticking out like that. It should be that the last portion of that should be as straight as you can get it. So I'll secure that like that. But anyway, I feel that's an elegant solution to this problem. On the same kind of subject, if you look at the back here, they have this different VTX mount. There's two washers that are nylon washers. I think they're nylon washers that come with it that are supposed to sandwich that. You crank down on it, your VTX is in there. That's all good and well. It's doable. I'm still, for whatever reason, a fan of the VTX mount that came here. In this case, I'm using a Immersion RC Tramp. I don't know, see if you can see without me taking this apart. I just filed roughly down the bolt here so it fits in there. This is really designed for for the Turnigy. No, not Turnigy. You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name right now, but it's probably the most common transmitter. I'm sure someone will mention it in the comments what it is. So I filed down the bolts on this just a little bit so it fit within those channels, and that allows you to crank down on this safely, and no fuss, no mess. This is I think a superior solution to the rubber mounted VTX stuff. So this goes in there like that. This came loose actually. So you crank that down like you want it. Definitely a nice solid mount. Less flexible, I'll give you that. In the event of a crash with this, you're more likely to probably break that connector, or more specifically your antenna. But I like how tight it goes in there. Crank it down a little bit. It's just nice and solid. Wearing this, you kind of have to fiddle with it. Some people would probably say that's an improvement. I don't know. I think this is superior. That's probably personal opinion too. I think I covered everything I wanted to bring up here. I don't want to make a whole bunch more Rooster video. I'm not here trying to bash Armattan. I'm just trying to let you know, if you get into this frame, what you're getting yourself into, and if Armattan watches it, maybe some things that they could think about on the next revision of it. Again, I have flown this frame, and it flies great. If in the end you're like me and you're getting fussy about some of these little things, maybe you're not. I do it because I like it. I'm an engineer at heart. But I also like to fly too.
So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and build the frame out, go fly it, have fun, and it'll just be in my arsenal of toys when I'm out in the field. Next thing I have going on, this will be my next video, probably come out. I'm trying to build this. This is a Norris Super Light made by Catalyst Machine Works. It's the Norris Edition Super Light. I've had a lot of fun putting this together. My goal here is they say that you can make a 200 gram or less than 200 gram quadcopter if you build this properly. And I'm gonna build it, and I can tell you right now it's over 200 grams. And you can see some obvious things on here of how to reduce that a little bit. This can be shorter for sure. These tubes could be a little bit shorter. Whether we need these or not, it's questionable. They're about 4 grams each. Anyway, I don't want to get into this in this video, but this is what you can expect next. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to this frame to make it be a under 200 gram racer, and we'll see what it takes to do that. I hope to see you in the next videos. I'll talk to you then.